I move that the House suspend the rules and agree to H.R. 1147, the Local Community Radio Act of 2009, as amended.
I also want to recognize and thank Mr. Doyle and Mr. Terry, the original sponsors of the bill, for their efforts to expand diversity, localism, and competition in our media landscape.
We do believe this bill has the potential to revolutionize what Americans hear on their radios, and that it will provide an exciting new platform for citizens to communicate with one another within their own local communities and neighborhoods.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1147 as amended? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
The station runs on an basically all volunteer level for all the programming. That we have about 80 or so hosts who produce about 80 or so different shows during the week, and those shows range from politics and art and writing and books to music, and the music of course goes from your rock to your jazz to blues, punk, metal, electronic, ambient, and everything in between. And the show hosts, they come from basically all different walks of life around Fairfield. We have, businessmen, students, the teachers, lawyers. We had one of the outstanding citizens of the year has been doing a show here for a long time. Just people from all walks of life, young people. We've had people who 10, 11 years old, 12, and we have people up into their 70s and 80s who have done shows here. So it's really a widespread cross-section of the community here in Fairfield. The product you get out there would be what the community is creating. You've created a space for the community to come and create what they're interested in, what they're passionate about, what the whatever music they like or information they're interested in. It's their place to share it. So when you listen, you get a wide variety of what the community that you live in is actually interested in, is sharing. And it's a very local, and I mean, you can go across the gamut from, there's shows that focus on local music and local events in town, local politics. And so, I mean, they're getting information about their own town as well as getting content, entertainment, and information that is actually being created where they live, instead of how most media is from someplace else, not created where you live. It's usually created it's created somewhere else, and it's not usually in so many hands in your community. But with a station like this, and with our station, you get to have you're basically listening to what your friends and neighbors are saying and sharing when you tune into our radio station.
Hey, good morning, Cecil. Yes, it's Ron Sorensen, and I am here for the Sunday morning acoustic brunch, which is coming up in just moments here at 99.1 KFMG. I want to thank Cecil for getting up here in the middle of the night so that he could come in at the crack of doom, Sunday morning, 6 a.m. for 4 hours. A great chance. Cecil, thank you very much. Now, coming up in the acoustic brunch, I'm the, general manager, music director, program director, staff announcer, chief underwriting salesperson. I do promotions and take out the trash at KFMG LP Des Moines, which is a non-commercial, non-profit community station in Des Moines. The FCC calls these low-power FM stations, or LPFMs. The station is here primarily to support, nurture, expose, promote the fine arts in Central Iowa. Specifically, we support and provide information, publicity for nonprofit entities of all kinds, but specifically for those in the arts, fine arts and cultural milieu. We also play music. We try to play music that nobody else in the market plays. So it's a unique musical format, and I think a unique public service and public support format as well. I've primarily worked in the commercial radio arena most of my career. This is the first non-commercial station with which I've been associated. Our presentation is probably closer to a commercial radio station than to most non-commercial stations, but is decidedly less commercial and more eclectic than, in terms of musical style, than most commercial radio stations. So in a sense, we sort of think it's the best of both worlds. We have the freedom to be a little more eclectic, to base our musical choices on merit rather than strictly on popularity, but yet we present it in a manner that is perhaps not quite so tedious and boring as some of us perceive most non-commercial radio to be. The FCC essentially conceived of and made available these low-power FM stations to provide some locality, some local programming, following the Communications Act of 1995, which allowed for the consolidation of the broadcast industry. Prior to that, radio station ownership groups had been able to own a maximum of 7 FM and 7 AM radio stations, and was limited as to how many they could own within a given market, in addition to being limited to how many they could own totally. The Communications Act of 1995 essentially threw those rules out and allowed the creation of entities like Clear Channel Radio, which owns over 1,000 radio stations, and just in our town, for example, owns probably 5 or 6 or 7 radio stations in their pod, their group of stations that they own in this market. So, and some of the fallout, and perhaps the most egregious result of that consolidation was the lack of, and the failure to pay attention to local needs and the lack of local programming. And these low-power FMs were conceived as a way to bring back some localism to broadcasting. We had sold our station in the mid to late 90s, and this looked to me like an opportunity to give something back to the market, which I think overall has been very good to me and very supportive of the type of radio that I've tried to do.